My name is Jared, and this is my story of going from $0 wannabe entrepreneur to making over $98,000 in a single month, owning multiple businesses. Now, this video is not to brag. This video is to give you insights into my actual story so you can learn from my mistakes and not make them yourself. Because this is going to be the raw, the real, the good, the bad, the ugly of my story and of going from $0 to $98,000 in a single month. Now, my story doesn't start wanting to make money. It actually starts on the baseball field competing. And going into high school at 14 years old, I was a nationally ranked player across the country. Now, what I didn't expect to happen was for me to develop a thyroid disorder over the course of the next 3 years through my junior year. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what a thyroid does in the body, it affects your hormones, it affects your metabolism, it affects your cognitive thinking. It basically affects every important facet of the human body. And the tricky thing about a thyroid disorder is it comes on very slowly. It's not something where I woke up one day and I instantly was tired and felt sick and all of these other symptoms. It gradually happened over time. So over time, of course, my play suffered, my focus in the classroom suffered, my energy suffered, everything was going down and down and down. And somehow, some way, with sheer determination, I was still practicing every day, going through the motions and playing and trying to compete at the highest level that I could. But obviously my play, my focus in the classroom, everything was suffering. It was a very weird place to be in, especially being 14 years old, especially having national pressure on you. It wasn't fun. Now, in my junior year, at about 16 or 17 years old, I finally convinced my parents to get blood work done. I said, this is not normal. I don't know what's going on. And that's when the thyroid disease became prevalent, became obvious. I had the hormonal levels of a 45-year-old woman. I was diagnosed with thyroid disorder and I was instantly put on medication. Almost overnight, all of my problems went away. I could think again, my acne cleared up. I actually felt like I had testosterone in my body to compete with people. Things changed overnight. Now, after I got healthy in my senior year, my first job ever was in a baseball shop selling merchandise. It was a very small mom and pop baseball shop, and I was selling gloves, bats, all those sort of stuff. But my entrepreneurship journey started in that shop, because in that shop I built relationships and I actually got clients for personal one-on-one training. They were kids, I was experienced in high school, and I was making 30 to 40 bucks an hour. It's pretty good for a 17-year-old kid. Now, what ended up happening in the shop is actually kind of insane. There was an older guy that played in the minor leagues that was also training out of this shop. And come to find out, he's a drunk. And he, one night, while I'm literally in a private lesson, ends up threatening me. He's 40 years old. He's fat. He's drunk. He threatens me. He says, "You shouldn't be coaching. You don't know what you're talking about." Because, of course, I'm taking money off his plate. And now he's all mad. I had to call my parents. Again, I'm a minor. I don't know what's going on. And within the span of the next week, he ended up stealing all of my clients. And with that life experience, I headed off to college and I went to Arizona State University for business. And the first job I got in college was working in Macy's. I was making 14 bucks an hour and I was working in the stockroom. I couldn't even get a job on the floor selling ties. They put me in the back with a bunch of ex-convicts, basically boxing things and unboxing things. And I remember thinking to myself in that time, I don't belong here. The whole point of me taking the role at Macy's was I wanted to move into a more retail position at a luxury store so that when I graduated, I had some sort of experience with face-to-face client-facing sales for the sales jobs that I wanted to go into. That's the whole reason I went to school, sales and business management. So I'm working this Macy's job and I'm making 14 bucks an hour and I'm with these other people and I'm not in a good environment. I didn't like my boss because obviously if you're the boss of a Macy's stockroom, you're not going to be this fantastic mentor I'm looking for. And I remember the final blow out of Macy's was there was a pay discrepancy and I go to my boss and he basically tells me to F off. And so I did, but I didn't come back. He probably thought like, go work. I actually just left and I walked out of the role and I said, that was awful. And miraculously within a few weeks, I was actually able to get a job at Ted Baker London, which is like a luxury British boutique. So I was dealing with affluent people and it was actually a fantastic role for me. Now after Ted Baker, I went to Nordstrom's, which is kind of my ultimate end goal as a senior selling clothes. And I was actually able to sell over $750,000 worth of merchandise in a year part-time. If you're unfamiliar with kind of the price points and how much volume that is, I was working my ass off. I literally had enemies on the sales floor because I was selling so much. I loved it. It was commission. I mean, why not? From Nordstrom, I graduated and I went into corporate America. Now, corporate America was such a massive inflection point for my journey because it really showed me the reality of life. And the reason I say reality of life is because the vast majority of people are in those roles. It's not life for everybody, but it's life for a lot of people. And I joined a massive company that sold human resource software, payroll, etc. And I was in outside sales. And in this outside sales role, my job was to sell payroll to small businesses in sunny San Diego. So I would go door to door in business parks. I would cold call them. I would work with accountants. I would work with banks and build relationships and sell payroll. Now, the outside sales part of it, I actually really enjoyed. But what was awful is the politics. If you're in a big 9-to-5 right now, you can relate. The politics, the micromanage, the useless meetings, the corporate culture maybe you didn't sign up for. Like I signed up for to go into sales, make good money, hone my skills, whatever. And what I got was I'm now a part of this culture that I'm not really on board with. And I have to adhere to a lot of people, and there's a lot of politics, and there's all of these strings attached that you don't sign up for when you go into a role with a company that's that big. And I remember this one inflection point about halfway through my first year there. And I remember looking at what the CEO of the company made. Mind you, the company did billions in revenue a year. And the CEO took home $7 million. And for anybody, that's pretty good. But I looked at it and I said, that's not very good. You're telling me, this guy was in his 70s, you're telling me I have to work 50 years here where I'm not even really happy or fulfilled to make $7 million a year? I thought that trade-off was awful, and I had to play the politics game, and I had to do this, I had to do that. I had to climb a corporate ladder. It literally made me sick to my stomach. That was one of the biggest moments where I said, I need to start my own business. And then COVID comes around. And during COVID, they became very micromanaged, and we went into inside sales. And of course, we're selling to small businesses, so they're going out of business, and everything was crumbling around us. And I remember getting on a call with my boss, and she rips into me, and she's telling me I'm not doing enough, like peak COVID. And I remember getting off the call and just being like, I'm done. I'm absolutely done. I'm not accepting this behavior. And that was just a switch. That was a switch because there's a certain level of respect that I'm willing to tolerate from people that are in my life. And obviously a boss is kind of like in your life in a certain way. And that was it. I instantly started working on business ideas. And I came to the realization that this wasn't a far-fetched dream. This was a need. I needed it for my wealth, and I needed it for my fulfillment and my respect. And at this point, mind you, my only skill was selling. That's all I knew how to do. Set appointments, close appointments. That's basically all I knew how to do. But I knew that I had a creative side, and I knew that I wanted to do something that was a little bit unique. So I came up with the idea eventually of combining my spiritual side of myself with the clothing side of myself, because I loved fashion, I loved clothing, but I didn't just want to make a basic brand. I wanted to make a brand that was very unique, that combined these worlds, that you could walk into a club with, but also carry a deeper meaning with your designs and still kind of meet that level of design, of clothing. And I started to get to work. And I remember I bought an $80 Udemy course to learn how to do graphic design because I literally knew nothing. But I needed to design something, and I needed to know how, so I bought the course. And slowly but surely, I learned how to talk to manufacturers. I learned how to create a website. I learned all of these other skill sets I had no idea how to do, and I launched my first brand in February of 2022. And then everything went sideways once again, because shortly after, I was on Fiverr looking to hire somebody to help me with some marketing, because again, I'm skillless, right? And I hired this guy on Fiverr, and literally within days, after I gave him access to all of my accounts, I'm banned everywhere. I don't have an Instagram. I don't have a Facebook. All of my brand is wiped off the internet for good. And it was in that moment of sheer panic that I realized something. I have been so ignorant to my own ignorance. I recognized very quickly that I actually knew nothing. And I was in a massive state of delusional optimism, which is okay. You need self-belief. But it's also really good to be aware of what you don't know so you can figure out what you do know. And that was more or less a representation of the first 6 to 8 months with my brand. Very slow, learning how to market, ups and downs, inventory issues, printer issues, all like everything you can imagine would go wrong, went wrong. And these are the things they don't teach you in school. This wasn't in my business course. This wasn't in anything that I learned from any professor, but I needed to figure out quickly how to deal with actual problems, how to solve problems with speed, how to make a lot of decisions quickly. I was gaining all of these soft skills so quickly. And on the other side of business is the personal development side. And in the first 6 to 8 months, I still had my bad habits. I was still going out. I was still drinking a lot. I was still partying. I wasn't disciplined. And it directly affected my business, because whether you like it or not, no matter how big your company is, the founder is the business. The business will always go as far as the founder can take it. And I was a horrible founder. I was a horrible CEO. I was undisciplined. I was going out. I was doing this. I was traveling a lot. Like, how am I supposed to develop a business in that sort of environment? And I realized really, really quickly, I need to gain the knowledge, I need to learn, and I need to develop now. I need to make sacrifices and do things differently right now. And at the end of the first year, things started to really turn around. I started to get a lot of big names like John Summit, Wax Motif, Lonnie Walker, a lot of different guys in the brand, which really helped social proof. Now, also in the end of the first year, I was also starting to get into the B2B sector, getting into stores, getting wholesale orders, and that's where I focused the majority of my time going into year 2. Because it's a lot more profitable if I don't have to acquire a customer for $70. I can get a $10,000 order for no customer acquisition costs. Now, it is at wholesale, so the volume is higher, but from a profit perspective, I can save so much time, energy, and resources on the marketing side of things. That's why a lot of brands oftentimes have the vast majority of their revenue be B2B. Now, during this time, I always knew that there is always an easier way and a more effective way to do anything, to make money, to do this, do that, to market, whatever. And I knew that there could be a better opportunity for me, but I wasn't sure what it is. And I loved my brand, and I still love my brand. I still get orders to this day. But I knew deep down that there was a more lucrative, a better opportunity way of making money, of growing online. And that's when Phantom was born. And I had the idea of Phantom by thinking about how to solve problems and how to apply all the skill sets I've gained in the last year and a half, 2 years by building my own brand, and how can I apply it on a bigger scale for more money. You solve more problems, you make more money, directly correlated. And because of the stature of the brand I built, I had a lot of relationships in the public sports world, in the media world, in the music world. It was a status brand, so I built those relationships very well. And what I realized from launching my first brand is getting it off the ground and marketing it, if you don't have a personal brand or an audience, is extremely difficult, especially if you don't know what you're doing, right? And I recognize that it's very costly, and most DTC brands lose money their first 2 years of being in business. So what I recognized is, why don't I leverage all of my relationships and build brands for them? Because they already have an audience, they already have a following, they won't need to market, and that's the hardest piece of the puzzle. It's gonna make them so much more profitable on day one, and that's what Phantom is. I combined all of my skill sets into Phantom and gave it to them on a silver platter. And I said, I'm going to do this for you for X amount of money. It's not free, but you're going to get a brand of extremely high caliber, tailored to you, for your audience, like that. You won't have to lift a finger. We're going to do everything for you. And 3 days after I launched this offer, I got my first client. I made my first $10,000 with this offer in one call, because I had the relationship, I had an amazing offer, and I positioned it properly. And it's honestly an industry disruptor, because a lot of people do a volume merge game. We won't even talk about them. But that was pretty exciting. And I said, I have something here. I said, this is going to be something fantastic. This feels amazing. And after that, I did more. I did more outreach, I did more calls, I did more pitches. I was meeting with agents and managers and athletes and musicians and media personalities and all these different types of people to build them their own brand, because they could see the value too. And no matter how diverse an audience is, everybody buys clothes. Shortly after I launched Phantom, we were at $100,000 in a single month. And that was only with a couple people, because again, it's very, very high ticket, which is very, very nice, because you don't need to be constantly getting more clients for a $70 sale like I was doing with my own brand. And you know what else coincidentally I started doing during this time when I started to develop Phantom, when I really started to quantum leap my reality? I learned how to program my subconscious mind. I learned how to create my reality from the inside out. My beliefs, my thoughts, my actions, how I identified as an individual. See, because every business is a reflection of the founder. And if the founder has negative beliefs, trauma, all of these things they haven't worked through, it's going to hold them back subconsciously. And figuring this out was truly the catalyst, along with my business, along with my skill set, everything I've done, to quantum leaping my reality, my income, the things I do, the people I'm around, the life I get to live. It is unbelievable the shift in reality that can occur and how fast it can occur when you nail this. Now, at this point, I finally felt the confidence to start a personal brand. I finally said, okay, I've actually done something here. It's very unique. That's very cool. I want to start telling people about my experiences, my lessons, value, all these sorts of things, and putting it into a personal brand. At this moment, I started creating content. I started telling my story, started doing all these things. And then a coaching program appeared because people started reaching out to me saying, how can I work with you? How can I learn from you? And I said, well, I'll mentor you. I'll coach you. And so simultaneously, at the moment, I have my coaching program, which is a one-on-one program for the meantime, and I'm running Phantom, and I'm building brands, and I'm continuing to grow that business. That transition from my initial brand. And that is my exact story from 14 years old, sick, depressed, unhealthy, all the way to 27 years old, multiple businesses, multiple six-figure months, and feeling very fulfilled because I'm able to provide value for all the things that I do and all the people that I help. And if you're still here, I have a treat for you guys. I have 3 free courses I've created, all in my newsletter below, on how to get to 10K a month, on how to conquer your mindset, and how to build an amazing value offer like I do in my Done For You service that has closed celebrity clientele and makes me an average of $40,000 per client. Go grab those in the link below, and I'll see you next video.